We're going.
And we're live. Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that.
All of a
Live here in
sudden.
San Diego. Derek Evans here, of course. Sarah Halliburton is joining. Halliburton Homes. And so here's the question, Sarah. And you and I both hear this question on a regular basis. You know, I don't really know if it's the right time. Is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to buy a home? A lot of
It's so
people
crazy.
people are seeing that prices are high. People are seeing that rates are low. Some people are worried that the economy is going to crash or something. Coronavirus. There's so many different sort of macro
COVID.
things.
Wait for the fallout, right? Wait for the fallout.
Yeah. My favorite
Oh,
meme is a picture of a skeleton looking out the window, waiting for prices to drop.
yeah.
And it's an interesting thing because real estate values do fluctuate. They do go up and down. But when is now a good time to buy? So it depends on how you define that. So I think the first question we should really answer here is, when is the right time to buy a home? And then does the right now qualify for you based on that criteria? And we'll talk about some different types of buyers too. I think is a good idea. Like, buyers who who have never entered the market, never tried to get pre-approved, but they're sick of paying rent and they know at some point, okay, we can't keep doing this. So, that I think that represents a lot of first-time home buyers. They get to a point where they realize what I'm doing right now does not make sense for me to just continue to rent year after year after year. That's getting me nowhere. So we'll talk about that type of buyer. Let's talk about the buyer who got frustrated last year or the year before.
The ones who are frustrated now and are having a hard time.
Yeah. So let's do all those. Let's cover all those bases. I think that'll pretty much cover everyone who might be watching this and might be wondering, is it now the right time to buy for me? We know we have really good interest rates. We know that I've been roasting Sue Zorman lately about her saying that it's a bad time to buy, because I think that is a really, really bold and frankly arrogant thing to say. Whenever you give someone advice, you have to make sure that it's not going to hurt them, right? You have to make sure that at least what you're saying, will work out for them. This is the reason why saying to buy real estate makes sense, because if we want to, I can pull up and you know what, I am going to do this.
Well, and let's not forget that it is market specific, right? So our market in San Diego is completely different than a market in Midwest Kansas, So with that being said, there's certain things that happen in markets where appreciation values and things will change and fluctuate, and other markets where they won't. And, there's markets from 2007 that still haven't recovered, and we're fine. So that's a very bold statement to make.
You make a good point. She's talking more nationally, and we're specifically talking San Diego County, right. And maybe we'll talk a little bit of Riverside County, because that's starting to come into the picture a lot more for people right now. We have more people working from home, which is great. The work from home movement, I think, is awesome. I think it'll be really, really helpful for a lot of people, especially in the real estate space, because, if you have the ability to go to an area like a Temecula or Marietta or Winchester or whatever, and get a great house at a great price, and it doesn't kill you with a commute, then that's a good thing. But let me show this real quick, Sarah, because reality is, I'm going to share my screen here. This is real estate values since the mid 80s. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this comes from the Federal Reserve, specifically the St. Louis Fed here. As you can see, this is the reference. So the St. Louis Fed put together the information from the S&P Dow Jones Indices LLC, and they basically put together the Case-Shiller, which shows you home values and tracks that. And this is from the mid 80s to now. The grayed out areas here are recessions. So when we are giving advice and telling people that it does make sense to buy a home, we're on the side of the numbers. This does work out long term. This works out, and so we have that going for us. The trouble with waiting is that it needs to really make sense for circumstance. Hey, so when is the right time to buy? Well, let's start off with when is not the right time to buy. It is not the right time to buy if you can't afford it, if you don't have a down payment, if you think you might move next year, or
job changes, or loss of job, or the industry is shut down. Like that now may not be a good time.
Yeah, maybe your goal is to really, settle down and have a family and have kids, but you can only afford a condo right now. So maybe you need to make a plan where you can save up more money, and create what we call homeownership strategy so that you can ultimately achieve what you want. Because while it does make sense in a lot of cases to plan on your starter home being a condo or something smaller, if you have more immediate changes on the horizon in your life, then we can help you figure out how to spend the next year or two doing the right things to put you in position to execute what you want with less risk on the table. So there's, those are kind of when it's not wise to buy, right? When you have some of those really big pending things. Some people believe, Sarah, that some of those big impending 800-pound gorilla items are like coronavirus or presidential election is something that a lot of people say. Well, I've heard a lot of people say, you know what? I think everything's going to settle down after the election. So I'm just going to go into hiding until then. And you know what? Maybe that'll work out. Maybe it won't. And that's the trouble. So if we talk about the first sort of grouping of people who maybe, were into the market a little bit, maybe got pre-approved, maybe looked at homes a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, are like, man, this is nuts. Y'all don't know how much nuttier it has gotten. And that is the risk.
It is nuts. Like, we wrote an offer. We saw it day 2, $50K over asking, 7-day inspections, no appraisal. We got aggressive, super aggressive. We went out of our way to make ourselves stand out to the seller. We delivered a gift. We went above and beyond, and we didn't even get a counter. Not even a counter. We got a thanks for trying. There's nothing else you could have done.
Constellation email denied. And that's on a nice pool property in East County, right? 800 grand. So there is to say that out loud, to think a few years ago, you would be crazy. Like, there's no way they're going to bid more on that one. If you can get to it, once it hits the market, you'll be okay. No, not now. Not now. So this is the trouble. So I want to speak to that person first who was looking a year ago, 2 years ago, and got frustrated in the market. And maybe you talked to me, maybe you didn't. Maybe you just saw one of my videos saying, I'm telling you, it could get worse. And it very well may. And it has. Meaning that if you had bought 2 years ago, you'd be sitting on a fat pile of cash called equity right now.
Instead of paying it out.
Now, so that's the trouble. That's the trouble with waiting. When you say, oh, well, it seems crazy right now, it can get crazier. It can. And so that's one of the things that it should be a motivator, I believe. So if we identified when is not the right time to buy, when is the right time to buy? Let's talk about that, Sarah. Let's talk about, when did you decide to buy a home? What was going on in your world?
We were living in a 2-bedroom condo in Mission Valley, and I was pregnant with my 3rd child. So we were in a 2-bedroom with an at the time she was 7 and an almost 1-year-old with a baby on the way. We're like, all right, this is too small. Mission Valley, there was a lot of stuff going on down at the riverbed, a lot of camps and things. So we had decided that we were going to look in other areas. So we probably looked at 38 homes. Rates were high. Rates were 4.6, 4.7. I got a deal at 4.6 at the time. And we ended up buying our house off market. We ended up finding something that was not on the market because everything that we saw on the market didn't meet what we wanted. It wasn't big enough. Everything was kind of small, no pool, no yard. So we ended up buying something that needed a little bit of work, but we ultimately got a good deal on it. And now we're sitting on a fat pile of cash.
Yeah, called equity. So, and that was 4 years ago, you said?
No, I bought in 2018.
2 years
ago. I bought
ago.
2 years ago.
Okay. So in your case, it was, hey, growing family. We can't live this condo life anymore. So the question is, are we going to go rent a house or are we going to go buy a house? Right. And when you have that, and I think this happens with both, moms and dads, but I think it happens a lot with moms where it's like that. You call it nesting, call it whatever you want, call it safety, call it security. You want your own thing. You don't want to be living in someone else's house. Right. Did you have any of that?
Of course. Well, and then I also had the realtor side of, how can I sell homes if I don't own a home? I have to practice what I preach.
Yes.
And we had been in a position where we wanted to spend a lot of money doing a lot of fun things, which was great. And buying a house seemed like the responsible thing to do, and we weren't quite ready for all that when we first met. But now we realize we could have been so much further had we bought back then. You know, prices were lower, rates were lower in 2015 when we first started talking about it, and then we probably could have had like 3 properties by now, but we waited. That's okay. We're building to that.
Exactly. And that's, that's the thing, what we've found typically, if you wait a year, wait 2 years, in most cases, you pick any 2-year window on that graph I just put up. When you wait a couple of years, it just gets more expensive. So not only do you miss out on a couple of years of paying into, equity, to your principal and hopefully building equity if values go up, which they typically do, as you can see on the graph, and throwing away money to nothing. But you also now, when you do enter, have to pay more. And I think that can be discouraging. So when a buyer enters the market and then they exit and they come back and they go, oh, this is even crazier than when I left and I thought it was too expensive, it's immediately discouraging. It's got to come down at some point. This is the trouble with trying to play the housing market like stock. If you're trying to buy and sell it like stocks, it's very, very tough. The thing to really look at is that, listen, values go up over time because we have a limited supply of something for which there is an exponentially growing demand. And whenever you have that, you have a situation where prices will go higher. So yeah, there'll be peaks and valleys and ups and downs and things like that along the way, but the macro trajectory is higher for sure. So this is the reason why it sometimes comes off like a sales pitch, and I really don't want it to, because it's not where it's coming from. I just hate it when I love it. I should say, I will go with the positive side. I love it when I see someone who buys a house, kind of goes out on a limb and is like, man, I'm not even sure if this is the right thing to do. And then a couple of years later, they're sitting on a couple $100,000 or whatever. And I've got a lot of people in that scenario right now. Mm-hmm. So, what is great about that is that you get to see people really get rewarded for their bravery, if you will, just doing the right thing. It's a big purchase. It's something that is not to be taken lightly. It is a big deal. It's a big commitment. But ultimately, is it the right thing to do? I think the answer is obviously yes.
And I think it's also personal too, right? Like, where are you personally? I had to be okay with buying, and some people, they will never be okay with buying, and that's fine. But if you're looking for something where your money is safe and secure and it's growing for you over time, you get the tax benefits, you get to take home more of your income, and you have something that's working in your favor. And should something happen, you can rent it out. I mean, our rents in San Diego are astronomical. There's most people can rent for what their mortgage is. So your risk is very minimal, and you're able to leverage your own money by using the bank's money. It's the best long-term investment. Now, if you're going to be here for 2 years, yeah, who knows? But the other important thing about your graph, Derek, if you look from 1990 to now, is the only real blip we had was when we started doing crazy things in the mortgage industry. So you saw a little blip right around 1990, around the dot-com era, but every other recession and every other thing that's occurred has not affected the housing market. Now, not to say that COVID-19 won't, but I don't think that it's going to be as big of a fallout as what we saw earlier in the 2000s.
Goodness, from what we've seen so far with COVID, it's done nothing but accelerate things. People being forced to stay in their homes for long periods of time has caused a lot of people to realize that they want different homes. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
It's caused a lot of people to go, should I have to be here all day, every day? I need something else. So I think it's been, a real motivator, if anything. Certainly hasn't been a detractor. That's for sure. The market, I've never seen it like this, to be honest. But if we look at, okay, so for your situation, it was a growing family. For some people, it's, for example, a buyer that I just worked with, for her, she has 2 dogs. And that's like her family, so she wanted her dogs to have a yard. It was very important for her that they were happy and that they got to run around and, just be dogs. So family circumstances, I think, would include pets in this situation.
For sure.
For some people, they're just sick of paying rent. And I totally get that. And I hear that all the time. Hey, why are you looking to buy? Or what's kind of motivated you? What's got you looking into this? Sick of paying rent. One of the top answers, because you realize when you're doing it, you're doing something that doesn't quite feel right. It's like,
you're always paying a mortgage. It's just whether or not it's yours.
Right.
So,
Yeah. You know somehow that this isn't working out in your favor. Even if you don't know anything about numbers, just your instincts will tell you that this doesn't feel right. You're just handing money over. That doesn't feel right. So you get people who will say that. And I think that's perfectly legitimate. Also, if you're in a scenario where you know where you're going to be for an extended period of time, this is why a lot of times with young families, you'll see people going by because they'll say, well, we want to be in this school district and we want our kids to be able to stay in the school district for their entire time that they're in school. And so we need to own a place because we don't know what'll happen if we rent. And I think that's also another time where it makes sense. And these are all absent of what prices and rates are. Just
I'm seeing a
completely
lot of
absent.
move-up buyers too. I'm seeing a lot of people that did the condo initially, Derek, and now they're moving into their dream home. Because there's always two things to consider, right? The cost of the money to buy the home or the cost of the home. And right now, money's on sale. So they're looking at it as I've got a little bit of equity from when I bought my condo, and then rates are super low. So now is the time for me to go find my next house, my upgrade house.
What do you think about Temecula, Riverside County?
Man, now that people are starting to work from home and the commute is not as prevalent, and now that they're widening the freeway, I've got a client in escrow in a brand new 4.5 bedroom, or 4 bedroom plus a den and a loft, 4 bath, brand new build. It's like $350,000 in like downtown Menifee.
What?
Which is going to be, and mind you, downtown Menifee reminds me of early Otay, like when they first started building like the malls and stuff, like that's what Menifee looks like to me.
Really?
So, I mean, if you think about it, there's really nowhere to go. Like there's nowhere else to build. So where these people are building, I mean, those areas, Temecula now is like 650,000 and it has no pool. And
Wow.
10 years ago, it was 300,000. So I don't think that we're going to see a decline in those outside areas building and growing. I think that we're going to see an influx, especially if this new work from home order sticks around for longer and companies realize that they don't have to pay the excessive overhead in office space. I think that that's going to be something that homeowners can definitely take advantage of. And Marietta school districts are way better than San Diego Unified on paper.
Really?
Yeah, Menifee is, or not Menifee, Marietta is one of the higher rated school districts. Temecula as well.
Wow.
That's why a lot of my buyers have gone up there because it's so affordable. But I don't see anything changing with that except progression and pricing going up, as they do.
I think we're going to see sharper rise in prices in Temecula, Marietta, Menifee, Winchester. I think you're going to see those areas. Canyon Lake is a place where I can't even believe how much value's gone up. I was helping someone look at homes there like 2 years ago. They bought this sick place for like $425. Today, that place is $650. I mean, and it's just crazy. So like some of those areas there, maybe even Lake Elsinore, you could say, all the way up to that whole region right there, those values are going to go up a lot as a result of this, because we are going to see, as you mentioned, and it's already starting to happen. Talk to a commercial agent if you really want to hear sadness in someone's voice, because they are getting murdered right now. I mean, pick a new career path. That
retail is closed, office space closed, unless you're in the warehouse business.
Dunzo. So, it's over. The game is over.
That may be the real estate recession they're talking about.
That's the one. It's commercial. I'm getting smoked. A bunch of my real estate investments are in commercial, which has made sense for a very long time. I'm quickly giving back all the gains there, and I will be exiting as soon as possible. But some of those commercial investments you can't really exit immediately, which is one of the downsides to them. So I'm getting smoked. But listen, it's a fact. It's just a fact. The world, the technology was here for a long time, but we just didn't adopt until we were forced to. We just didn't say, okay, hey, well, let's do it like this, Sarah, instead of having you come up to the studio and make a trip, and then, we do it there. And then now we just do it this way. It's more convenient for us both, obviously. We can get the same information across. We can have the same communication. Hey, why were we doing this all the time? I don't know. It's weird. But we had the technology. Here it is. So now we get forced to use it. We're going to see this happen more and more and more with all sorts of different companies. They're going to reduce office space. It's already started to happen in a major, major way. And I think that's going to be a good thing. If it reduces traffic, imagine this. think about,
Traffic has been amazing for the last 4 months.
right?
I've been living it up. It's been so great.
That's a big deal, because here, and this is where I'm going with all this, is not only does the work from home make Riverside County or some of the areas that are more outlying, let's call it, even East County or East County, San Diego, North County, San Diego, and into Riverside County and Temecula and those areas. It makes it more appealing when you don't have to commute. But now imagine if you do have to commute, okay, but the traffic is reduced dramatically. The new norm for traffic is nothing compared to what it was.
The new
Nothing.
norm for traffic is how it was when I was like 17 years old growing up in Bay Park. It was 15 minutes from everywhere. Like everywhere you went was 15 minutes. And that's how it is again. And I love it, but I feel like it's temporary. So I won't.
Really?
Just enjoy it. Well, you never know. I mean, who knows? We opened up for a little bit and it didn't seem to impact it much. So
yeah, I just don't think, I think there's a new normal that's being created here. And it's really, really good, because all that traffic was bad for so many reasons, not only for the accidents, the danger, the time waste, the anger, the road rage, all that stuff, but also the pollution. And, I could go on and on about all the things that are bad about all the traffic. So those things are really good for all the outlying areas. There's still people who are going to want walkability. So there's still people who are going to want North Park. There's still people who are going to want those things. So if now is the right time for you, you will know, because you will have the urge to plant roots. You will have an understanding of where you want to be, or you will at least know that you want to own property in San Diego. I do talk to a lot of, sailors and Marines who are like, I want to come back here one day and I want to have a place that's mine. And I'm afraid if I wait until then, I won't be able to afford it.
yeah, you'll be priced out.
10 years from now, 15 years from now, yeah, you probably will be.
And consider too, there are markets that are constantly changing. North Park 10 years ago was not $1 million place where people wanted to live. North Park 10 years ago was dumb. No one wanted to live there. And Normal Heights is the new North Park. Normal Heights is progressing in that same way. That's why you're seeing appreciation values there of 16%, because it is becoming what North Park was prior to North Park being North Park. So if you are looking for something that's progressive and you're looking to hold it long term, like find an agent that knows those things and can help you in that area, because not everything looks pretty right away. Like North Park, I mean, no one wanted to live there. Now it's $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a circumstantial advantage, meaning like, especially with the young couples don't have kids yet. Okay, so you've got at least 6 years before you need a school district. Great. Let's help you buy something in an area that's good for you, convenient for you, but also where in the next 6 years you could see schools improving, because that's a surefire way for real estate values to go up. And it's kind of what's the chicken and the egg scenario, because it's like as real estate values go up, more tax money comes in, so the schools can be built up. But as the schools get built up, real estate values go up, so more tax money comes in. It's like, which one happens first? Usually it's real estate values, right? More money starts coming in, they start improving schools, start hiring better teachers, more teachers, whatever. They start doing the things that they need to do. And so real estate leads everything that's good in the economy. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a bull on it.
Derek, before we end this, speaking of it being a right time to buy, what do you think about rates? What do you think about the new stuff coming out? Because I know in my realm of dealing with clients, and I know you and I work together on a lot of stuff, but I had a client approved with a FHA loan on Friday, Monday. So we wrote offers all weekend, got our offer accepted on Sunday. Monday, no longer qualified. New COVID-19 overlays. I mean, we got her into a new program because we find solutions, but what is your thought on it being the right time to buy in this market with rates and with those changes that are occurring daily?
Yeah, those, individual lender overlays can happen, and it's really at no fault to the client. And some, banks will be more stringent than others when certain things take place. For example, I don't have any new overlays for VA or FHA, anything government or conventional. But, sometimes if an individual company has a scenario that they've sort of not done well with, they can get sort of penalized for it, and they have to make some changes to kind of tighten things up. As far as, the programs are concerned, I do think the government programs are the safest ones. As you mentioned, FHA, VA. I did a video this week that was basically in line with the concept of, hey, take your VA offer. It was really for realtors. Pardon me. It was just, hey, take the VA offer. it's the most solid offer you're going to get. The program's not changing. The people, a lot of the people, especially active duty members who are on, their income's not changing. It is just super duper solid. Whereas like we saw with jumbo, which has been sort of, back to where it's just a paper. There's a few things kind of trickling back. It's not my specialty. My specialty is VA, of course, but it's coming back a little bit slowly, but there was people there who absolutely got the rug pulled out from under them, who were in escrow, had deposits in, contingencies were removed, and their loan just disappeared, vanished. So, it's really a bond game, and the bond game is strong when it comes to the government products, very, very strong. And the rates that we're seeing are just absolutely insane. So as long as the 10-year treasury, which right now is thinking about 60 basis points, as long as it stays in that sub 80 basis points, you're going to see, interest rates just be ridiculous across the board. As far as programs are concerned, government programs are the best, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with a conventional loan or a jumbo loan. It just means that, it's something you really got to have to take a look at. Are we getting an exception? Are we on the fringe of our program, just barely, holding on to an approval, or are we super rock solid? So there's a few things to consider there. But, I think the most important thing, Sarah, is when you make the decision, it is the right time for me. Just know that when you do make that decision, it's not like you're committing yourself to buying something. What you're doing is you're committing yourself to exploring it. Let me explore it. Let me see if I'm approved. What am I approved for? What do payments look like? What kind of house can I get for, the payment that I feel I can afford? And can I find something that I like, something that I love, something that will work for me, that can be a really good long-term hedge, AKA investment for me. So I think
there's people that don't want to move. Like my girlfriend lives in a great building in Little Italy that she loves. She doesn't want to move there. And I was like, okay, fine, go buy a condo in Mission Valley and rent it out. Why not? You don't have to live in it. Just rent it.
Totally could. And rents are super high, and rents are just going to keep going higher. We finally started to see rents, the trajectory for rents was absolutely crazy. And the sort of the frenzy there, it seems to be dying down a little bit, meaning that we're starting to see finally rents plateau a little. Usually, though, that means when that plateau takes place, they'll continue to move higher once the consolidation is done. We don't know if that'll be the case or not, but it sure appears to be, based on the shortage of housing here. We're going to see higher rents. We're going to see higher housing prices. I'd say just expect it. I mean, if you just compare to LA, Orange County, San Francisco, San Jose, I mean, anywhere in California, I think San Diego is the best place to be. And I think it's obvious and no brainer, like a duh kind of situation. And we're the cheapest of all the markets I just mentioned by a lot.
I was going to say, you also know that we're the least expensive. And if you look at our location, we have zero room to build. We can't go south, we can't go east, we can't go west, we can't go north. Like, we have zero room to build. So with that being said, we also have the military. And if we do have a huge, we'll call it recession, the DOD always spends money during recessions. Historically, they start dumping a bunch of money into the DOD, and we are a huge headquarters for the DOD. So San Diego's effect, like their effect from the recession, should be minimal at best.
And honestly, Sarah, even if we do have a recession, 3 out of the last 5 recessions, real estate values went up. The real recession doesn't necessarily equal, a recession in housing prices. In fact, usually
everyone's on loan forbearance. Everyone's not paying their mortgage. It means I may get a bunch of foreclosures, right?
That's what they keep telling me. But how long did we hear that during the actual mortgage crisis, the actual world global collapse? How long did we hear in San Diego, shadow inventory, it's coming. It's going to be, thousands and thousands of homes. They're just going to dump onto the market all at once. Never happened. Never happened.
And let me tell you something. The people that know about it, they're the ones buying it.
Buying them.
Before you get them.
Totally. Yeah, and I'm not saying it didn't exist. What I'm saying is it definitely didn't cause a problem, because what we saw huge investment firms, BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, other huge capital firms buy thousands of homes and continue to own thousands of homes. And this is actually my greatest fear of all, and probably what I put at the top of the list for myself personally, why you want to buy a home. I don't think, and it could be 50 years, it could be 100 years from now, I don't know, But at some point, you won't be able to buy a home. You won't have a choice. You'll be renting from a corporation, and there will be no other option. Wall Street will buy all the real estate. They will completely control everything. And I know it sounds conspiracy theorist, but trust me, if you just look at the graph, if you look at the data of how many houses are owned by Wall Street, it just keeps going up and up and up and up. And Wall Street and those big investment firms, they like stuff that has multiple angles for upside. They like stuff where they can create cash flow because they can borrow against cash flow, so it allows them to leverage it. And they also like the idea of being able to control markets. They love to be able to control stuff. So if you're able to own all of the homes in even just a neighborhood, a small neighborhood, which they do right now in lots of places, you can totally control what the prices are, what the rents are, et cetera. So it checks all the boxes for Wall Street, and I know they've got their eyes on it. I do expect there'll be legislation at some point. I really, really hope so, that will sort of put a cap on that. But don't be surprised 50 years from now if you find out that your kids or your kids' kids can't buy a house because they're all gone. They're all owned by someone who doesn't want to sell it. So
the winner in Monopoly was always the one that had the most property and was collecting the most rent. Like they won every time.
And that's what Wall Street's doing. And they're doing it, obviously there's a lot of real estate in this country. So it's going to take them a long time to execute this game plan, but it's in motion and you can see it. So what I see here is for people who are buying a home today, one of the things that you might be doing is giving your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids the opportunity to actually own a home themselves, the home that you bought back when people could still buy homes, and that is, it may sound extreme. It may sound like I'm being dramatic, and I wish I was, but I'm just looking at the data, what's taking place and the initiatives for these different funds and what they keep doing and what they did when prices were on sale and how they really did help the real estate market at that time. But how ultimately their intentions weren't good, and they still aren't. They want that cash. They want your money, plain and simple. And they know that if you own a home on your own, it's harder for them to get it from you. But if you are going to rent, it's easier for them to get it from you and to control how much they're getting from you. So I do believe that we could be heading in that direction. That said, purpose here, when is it the right time to buy? When it makes sense for you.
As soon as you can.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you qualify and you plan to be here for a while, it really does make sense. There are a few instances where it doesn't. We mentioned those earlier. Wanted to get those out of the way because, hey, we're just telling everybody to buy a house regardless of your scenario. No, we want to make sure that it makes sense for you. But just know the truth, about what's going on. And it never hurts to explore your options. It never hurts. You can always check it. I also made a video recently about how mortgage inquiries do not affect your credit score. They're omitted now from FICO. So you can have your credit pulled for mortgage. It does not hurt your credit score at all, which I know means you can shop around, which is great. But also just in general, when you're checking into it, if you say, hey, well, we're 6 months out, well, we're going to wait to pull our credit. You don't have to do that anymore. You can actually pull it now, see exactly where you're at. Maybe there's some things you can do to improve your score in the meantime, get yourself a better interest rate. So it makes sense to do those things now where maybe in the past it didn't.
100%. Thanks, Derek. I'm just fired up now. Now I want to go buy some. Now I got to go buy some properties. I got 3 kids.
No, yeah, right. Each one of them a house. You find the properties. That's the hardest thing, right?
Finding property is the hardest thing. That is a struggle right now. I mean, there's multiple buyers. Everyone looks like a good offer. I mean, I'm going up against offers where they have no contingencies. Like they're saying, I'll take the house as is, or I'll give you my deposit. And that's crazy. That's intense. But I bought my house off market. I know how to do it. And I feel that there are sellers out there that want to sell and either are afraid of COVID, people coming through the house, they don't want that. But I know that there's people out there ready to sell. So we just got to go find them. Maybe
we'll do that one next time. We'll talk about buying off market property, because that could be the route for a lot of people who might be waiting in the wings, expecting something to change. Things aren't going to change, but maybe we can help with some advice on that. Would that be cool for next time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll share my secrets.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for your time today, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Derek.
All right. You got it. Everybody share this video with your friends. Let's help make them smarter than everyone else.